In a world where everyone is constantly moving forward, who would ever stop? Just to wait. And for how long would someone wait? A month? A year? How about 20 years? This is the real story of a man named Dev Mishra, who spent 2 decades sitting on the same bench at the same train station, waiting for someone who had promised to return. There was no social media, no phone calls, no updates, just a memory, a promise, and a hope that refused to die. People at the station began to recognize him. They called him the man on bench 3. He never begged for attention. He just waited. This isn't a story about a perfect romance. It's a story about quiet loyalty, about love that never shouted, and about a kind of patience this world no longer understands. Dev didn't wait because he was naive. He waited because he believed. And in the end, that belief, no matter how painful, became the legacy of his life. This is not fiction. This is a true story. And one you won't forget. In 1994, in the bustling Indian city of Patna, a soft-spoken 32-year-old man named Dev Mishra lived a simple life working as a junior accountant. Nothing in his life ever stood out until he met Anjali Verma, a school teacher from the nearby town of Gaya. Anjali traveled to Patna twice a month for teacher training workshops. One day, a mutual friend introduced them. What began as polite conversation over chai slowly turned into something deeper. Their favorite meeting spot. Platform 3, where Anjali caught her 7:30 a.m. train back to Gaya. Anjali had a radiant smile, a calm voice, and a spark of independence in her eyes. Dev, a quiet man of few words, found peace in her presence. They talked about dreams, about books, about what it meant to live a meaningful life. Eventually, love bloomed. Then came the moment that changed everything. Anjali was offered a prestigious teaching job in Delhi, a life-changing opportunity. But accepting it meant moving far away, leaving Dev behind. She hesitated. Dev, sensing her fear, gently said, "Go, chase your dreams, I'll stay right here." Waiting, Anjali cried. Before boarding the train, she held his hand and said, "I promise, on the 15th of every month, I'll return on the 7:30 a.m. train. I'll never miss it." So the first month, she came back. The second month, she came again. The third month, she didn't. Dev waited. He thought perhaps the train was late, or she was sick. It came the next day and the next. But Anjali never returned. Keev wasn't a man who gave up easily. He believed in Anjali, believed that something must have happened, family trouble, a personal emergency, or something she couldn't talk about. So he waited. What started as a few days stretched into weeks, then months, then years. Every month on the 15th, Dev showed up at Platform 3. Wearing the same faded blue shirt he had worn the day she left, he sat on the same wooden bench. He brought a cup of chai, and he watched the 7:30 a.m. train roll in. People began to notice. The vendors started calling him the waiting man. Some joked, some pitied him. Others respected the mystery. When asked, "Who are you waiting for?" Dev would reply, "Just someone who once said they'd return." He never complained, never tried to explain more. He wasn't angry, just constant. Dev eventually left his job. He sold his belongings, moved into a small rented room near the station, and lived simply. He did odd jobs at a local tea stall for money, but his real job was to keep a promise, even if the one who made it had forgotten. Time passed. His hair turned gray, his eyes dimmed. But his routine never changed. Day after day, year after year, people came and went. Lives changed, trains arrived and departed, but Dev remained. Some called him a fool, but others saw in him a kind of unshakable devotion this world rarely witnessed. Dev never blamed Anjali. He never spoke ill of her. In fact, he always believed if she once kept her promise, she still might. In 2014, a young journalist named Ria Sen was assigned to cover hidden human stories around Patna. She heard whispers from train workers and vendors. "There's this man. He's comes here every 15th. Been doing that for 20 years. Same bench. Same time every month. Curious, Ria decided to find out for herself. She approached Dev one quiet morning, sat beside him, and offered him chai. "Uncle, I've seen you here before. May I ask, why do you come here every month?" Dev gave a tired but kind smile, waiting for someone. Over the next few days, Ria continued to visit. They talked about poetry, about the trains, about the weather. Gradually, Dev opened up. He told her everything about Anjali, the promise, and the 20 years of waiting. Ria was stunned. She asked, did she ever come back? He nodded. Twice, then never again. Ria couldn't let the story go. She wrote an article keeping Dev anonymous, just calling him the man who waited. The story went viral across India within 2 days. People flocked to Patna station to see if he was real. Social media exploded with hashtags. Thousands were moved to tears by the idea that someone had waited not for attention, but for love. Then came a message, an email, from Anjali Verma, now living in Delhi. She had read the story and recognized every detail. She wrote, "I was forced to marry someone else. My parents found out about Dev and forbid me from seeing him again. I didn't have the courage to disobey. But I never stopped thinking about him," she continued. "I didn't think he would. Still be waiting? No one waits that long." Ria asked if she'd come back. Anjali hesitated, then agreed. September 15th, 2014. The station was unusually crowded. Reporters, locals, and strangers had all come not to interrupt, but to witness something that felt sacred. Dev arrived like he always did, 7 a.m. sharp, same bench, same blue shirt. He looked tired but focused. The years had carved lines on his face, but not on his soul. At 7:30 a.m., the train from Delhi pulled in, and then she stepped off. Anjali, older now, with silver in her hair, sadness in her eyes, and tremble in her hands. But when Dev saw her, he stood. No shock, no drama. Just a long, quiet silence between two people who had never stopped remembering. She whispered, "I didn't think you'd still be here." He replied, "I promised." She sat beside him on the bench. For 15 minutes, they said nothing, just sat, breathing the same air, letting the past rest between them. Finally, she said, "I'm married now. I have a family. But I'm sorry." Dev smiled. "I know." She asked, "Why did you wait?" He looked at her and said, "Because you were worth waiting for." And just like that, she stood up and walked away. No goodbye, kiss, no embrace. Just a final look over her shoulder, tears in her eyes, and then she vanished into the crowd. Dev didn't cry. He didn't chase. After her, he simply picked up his cup of chai and walked away. He never returned to Platform 3 again. Days passed. The bench felt emptier than usual. People asked, "Where is the old man? Did he move? Did he pass away?" Weeks later, the tea vendor received a handwritten letter. It was from Dev. He wrote, "She came back not to stay, but to finish the story. That's enough for me." Dev had quietly relocated to a nearby village on the Nepalese border. He began volunteering at an orphanage, teaching children how to read and write. When asked why, he said, "I spent 20 years waiting for love. Now I want to spend the rest of my life giving it to those who never had any." Dev's story isn't about a fairy tale ending. It's about dignity, about keeping a promise even when no one else remembers it. Sometimes love doesn't mean possession. It means patience, sacrifice, and letting go. The world calls people like Dev fools. But maybe it's because they remind us that deep down, we all wish someone would wait for us like that. You might call Dev a fool, a hopeless romantic. But sometimes it's the fools who make the world beautiful. He had no social media, no phone to call her back, just a promise, a bench, and a heart that never let go. Dev didn't wait because he was expecting anything in return. He waited because he believed in what they once shared, and because sometimes love is not about moving on, but about staying true. He waited not to get her back, but to honor the memory of what they once had. In a world obsessed with results and endings, Dev showed us something more powerful, that keeping a promise can be the most beautiful way to love. He didn't need a fairy tale. He just needed to know she remembered. And once he did, he walked away quietly whole. This story isn't about how to love, it's about how to be loyal. And maybe, just maybe, how to be human. Thank you for joining us on this unforgettable journey of devotion, patience, and quiet strength. If Dev's story moved you, please hit the like button and subscribe to Real Moments on YouTube for more heartfelt stories that remind us of the beauty in everyday lives. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What would you have done if you were in Dev's place, waiting for 20 years? If you've ever held on to a promise that shaped your life, share your story in the comments below. And don't forget to share this video with someone who needs a reminder that love in its truest form is about staying true no matter the cost. We'll see you in the next Real Moment.